You ever had someone in your life who made you feel small, but when you called it out, they said they were just being honest or giving tough love? Yeah, me too. There's a fine line between someone who challenges us for our growth and someone who tears us down to control, manipulate, or feed their own insecurity. And let's be clear, one builds courage, the other breeds shame. So today we're going to break it down, because if we don't learn the difference between toxic behavior and genuine tough love, we risk either keeping the wrong people too close or pushing away the right ones who hold us accountable in a way that makes us better. Toxic people demand compliance. They use fear, guilt, or gaslighting to get their way. Tough love, on the other hand, holds us accountable without stripping away our dignity. One is about control, the other is about growth. I want you to think about a time when someone gave you advice that didn't feel like advice. It felt like a command. Maybe they framed it as helpful feedback, but there was an unspoken threat underneath. "I'm just looking out for you," they might have said, but somehow it didn't feel like care. It felt like control. Here's what we know. Control thrives in spaces where fear and guilt do the heavy lifting. Toxic people operate from a mindset of scarcity. There's only so much power, attention, or validation to go around, and they're making sure they get theirs. They don't ask, they demand. They don't invite conversation, they dictate terms. And if you push back, well, suddenly you're the problem. "I was just trying to help. You never listened to me. You really cared, you'd do what I'm saying." Let's be clear. There's a difference between someone setting a boundary with you and someone manipulating you into submission. Boundaries say, "This is what I need to be healthy." Control says, "You need to change to make me comfortable." Tough love doesn't work like that. Tough love isn't about bending someone to our will. It's about helping them see their potential, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable. When someone gives real tough love, their words might sting a little, but they don't leave wounds. There's honesty, but there's also care. There's challenge, but there's also respect. Think about a mentor, a coach, or a friend who's given you hard feedback that actually made you better. They didn't shame you. They didn't belittle you. They didn't make you feel like you were one mistake away from being unworthy. Instead, they told you the truth in a way that made you stand up straighter, not shrink. That's the difference. Toxic control is about power. Tough love is about empowerment. One keeps you small, the other gives you room to grow. And here's the tricky part. Toxic people think they're being helpful. They don't see themselves as controlling. They'll tell you this is for your own good, and they'll believe it. But real tough love doesn't have to convince you it's love. You feel the difference. So the next time someone offers you their version of advice, ask yourself, do I feel seen or do I feel small? Do I feel challenged in a way that pushes me forward or controlled in a way that holds me back? Because real love, tough or not, always leaves room for choice. Ever shared something personal only to hear, "That's ridiculous," or "You're too sensitive"? That's not tough love. That's emotional invalidation. True tough love doesn't dismiss your feelings. It challenges your perspective while respecting your experience. Let's talk about what happens in those moments. The ones where you open up, take a risk, and someone shuts you down. Maybe you finally spoke up about something that hurt you, and instead of listening, they rolled their eyes. Maybe you tried to set a boundary and they laughed it off. Or maybe, the worst one of all, they made you feel like you were overreacting, like your emotions were wrong. That's not tough love, that's gaslighting. And here's the kicker. People who do this often think they're helping. They think they're teaching you to be stronger. The world is tough, you need thicker skin. But tough love isn't about making someone numb. It's about helping them grow while still honoring their emotions. Research shows that emotional invalidation, constantly having your feelings dismissed or ignored, can be just as harmful as outright verbal abuse. Because over time, it teaches you to question yourself. You stop trusting your instincts. You wonder if maybe you are too sensitive, if maybe you shouldn't feel the way you feel. Let's be clear, tough love isn't about making someone feel less. It's about helping them navigate their feelings in a healthy way. It's the difference between saying you always get upset over nothing and saying, I see you're feeling hurt. Let's talk about what's going on. One shuts down the conversation, the other opens the door for growth. And the truth is, people who invalidate others are often uncomfortable with vulnerability, either their own or someone else's. It's easier to dismiss someone's emotions than to sit with them. It's easier to say, just get over it, than to say, tell me more about why this is hard for you. Because listening, really listening, requires presence. It requires courage. Think about the people in your life who make you feel safe enough to be honest. The ones who don't rush to tell you why you shouldn't feel a certain way, but instead ask questions to help you explore it. That's what tough love looks like. It's not about shutting you down. It's about showing up with honesty and care. And here's the challenge. When someone dismisses you, it's easy to either shut down completely or start proving why your feelings are valid. But you don't have to prove anything. Your emotions are real, whether or not someone else understands them. Tough love makes space for that truth. Toxic people don't. The next time someone tells you you're overreacting or that's not a big deal, take a step back and ask yourself, do I feel heard or do I feel dismissed? Do I feel like they're helping me grow or like they're trying to control the conversation? Because real tough love might push you, but it will never erase you. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It's the birthplace of courage. But toxic people use it against you. They'll remember the thing you shared in confidence and bring it up when it serves them. Tough love? It sees your vulnerability and protects it. We all know that feeling, the hesitation before we open up to someone, that tiny voice inside asking, can I trust them with this? It's a big moment because sharing something vulnerable isn't just about words. It's about offering a piece of ourselves, hoping it will be handled with care. Now imagine doing that, sharing your fears, your struggles, your dreams, only to have it thrown back in your face later. Maybe it was a subtle jab in an argument. Maybe it was a smirk and a, wow, you're really insecure about that, huh? Maybe it was something even worse, like watching them tell someone else what you shared in private. That's what toxic people do. They collect vulnerabilities like currency and spend them when it benefits them most. And the damage, it's real. Research shows that when we experience betrayal, especially emotional betrayal, it activates the same regions in the brain as physical pain. That's how deeply we're wired for trust and connection. When someone uses our vulnerability as a weapon, our brain registers it as an injury, and over time we start to shut down. We stop sharing, we stop trusting. We start wearing emotional armor so thick that even the people who genuinely care about us can't get through. But tough love doesn't work like that. Tough love respects vulnerability. It doesn't mean people won't call you out or challenge you, but when they do, it's never at the expense of your dignity. Think about the difference between someone saying, you always do this, you're so insecure, versus, I know this is a sensitive area for you, but I need to be honest with you about something. One is a cheap shot. The other is a conversation. One is about making you feel small. The other is about making space for growth. Tough love doesn't use vulnerability as leverage. It protects it. It holds space for it. It understands that sharing our struggles is an act of courage, not a weakness to exploit. And here's the hard truth. Once you realize someone is using your vulnerability against you, it changes everything because you can't unsee it. You can't unknow that the person sitting across from you isn't a safe place for your heart. And that's painful. But it's also information. If you ever find yourself hesitating before sharing with someone, not because you're afraid of honesty, but because you're afraid of how they'll use it, trust that instinct. Tough love might challenge you, but it will never make you question whether you're safe. And when it comes to the people we let close to our hearts, safety isn't optional. It's everything. Toxic behaviors grow in the dark, passive aggression, backhanded comments, gossip, but tough love, it's direct, clear, and uncomfortable, but not cruel. It doesn't play games and it doesn't leave you guessing. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling unsettled, like something was said but also wasn't, like there was an unspoken message underneath the words? Maybe someone gave you a compliment that Didn't quite feel like one. Wow, must be nice to have that kind of confidence. Or maybe you found out a decision was made about you, but nobody had the courage to tell you directly. That's what toxicity does. It avoids the light. It thrives in whispers, in half-truths, in conversations that happen behind closed doors. It leaves you questioning yourself, wondering if you're imagining things. And that's exactly the point, because when things stay vague and unsaid, power stays in the hands of the person avoiding accountability. Now contrast that with someone who practices tough love. They don't sugarcoat, but they don't manipulate either. They tell you exactly what they mean. No side comments, no passive aggression, no making you guess. And let's be real, directness can be uncomfortable. When someone sits you down and says, hey, we need to talk about something, there's a part of us that braces for impact. But discomfort and cruelty are not the same thing. In fact, clarity, even when it's hard, is one of the most compassionate things we can offer each other. Think about it. When someone gives you clear feedback, it might sting for a moment, but at least you know where you stand. At least you're not left reading between the lines trying to decode what they really meant. At least you don't have to wonder if they're smiling to your face and saying something entirely different when you walk away. Because here's what we know. When people don't communicate directly, the gap gets filled with assumptions, resentment, and more toxicity. Silence doesn't keep the peace. It just delays the fallout. And tough love, it doesn't play that game. It brings things into the open. It chooses honesty over comfort. And even when it's hard to hear, you can trust that it's coming from a place of truth, not manipulation. So if someone in your life makes you feel like you're always guessing, if they're warm one day and cold the next, if they talk about problems everywhere except directly with you, pay attention to that. Because tough love doesn't keep you in the dark. It turns on the light and trusts you enough to handle the truth. At the core, toxic people want power over you, while tough love wants connection with you. One is fueled by ego, the other by care. When someone calls you out, ask yourself, are they trying to control me, or are they helping me become better? This is where things get tricky, because control doesn't always look like control. Sometimes it looks like concern, sometimes it looks like guidance, and if we're not paying attention, we can mistake someone's need for power as an act of care. Have you ever had someone constantly correct you, not because you were wrong, but because they needed to be right? Or maybe they gave you advice that wasn't about helping you, it was about making sure you needed them. Toxic people operate from this place. They don't just want to offer input, they want to be the input. The voice you rely on, the person you second guess yourself for. And here's the thing, real tough love never demands that kind of dependency. It doesn't say you can't do this without me. It says, I believe you can, and I'll challenge you when you need it, but your strength is yours, not mine. Toxic people don't want that. They don't want your strength. They want your obedience. And the way they get it, by making you feel like you owe them something. Like their advice isn't just advice, it's a debt. After everything I've done for you, you're really going to ignore what I'm telling you? If you trusted me, you'd listen. That's not tough love, that's control. And control always comes with strings attached. Tough love, on the other hand, is the opposite. It's the coach who pushes you to run one more lap, not because they need to prove something, but because they see what's possible for you. It's the friend who tells you the hard truth, not to bring you down, but to lift you up. It's the mentor who gives you feedback and then lets go, who trusts you to take what you need and leave what you don't. Tough love doesn't operate from a place of scarcity. It doesn't say, if you succeed, I lose power. It says, if you grow, we both win. And that's the difference. Toxic people can't handle your growth because it threatens their control. Tough love wants your growth because it's built on real connection, not power. So the next time someone offers you feedback, look at the energy behind it. Are they speaking from a place of fear, control, and ego? Or are they speaking from a place of care, courage, and trust? Because tough love never asks you to shrink, it asks you to rise. At the end of the day, the difference between toxic people and tough love isn't complicated, it's how they make you feel about yourself. Toxic people leave you doubting, second guessing, and shrinking. Tough love challenges you, yes, but it also respects you, empowers you, and helps you rise. And here's the truth. You deserve relationships that honor your worth. You deserve people who can be honest without being cruel, direct without being manipulative, and firm without being controlling. Because real love, tough or not, never demands that you lose yourself in order to stay in it. So as you move forward, pay attention to who truly supports your growth and who only wants to keep you small. Choose the people who push you forward, not the ones who hold you back. And most importantly, trust yourself to know the difference. Good luck, and may you always walk with the kind of love that builds you, never breaks you.